Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name's Selena if you're new. Today I've got a little menu plan here that I've written up. We are going to have a little mini dinner party for our family tonight, and I'm going to do something that's just not the same old chicken dinner, right? I'm using things we have, as always, trying to not blow the budget but still be able to entertain people. So my recipe today is going to be Asian inspired chicken dinner, just because it's something a little different to the standard chicken dinner that we might be more used to. And I'm going to do a main, I'm going to do a side, I'm going to do a dessert, and I'm also going to do a drink for tonight's dinner. And I'm going to use majority things we either have grown or have just regularly sort of staple ingredients on hand in our house. So to get straight into it, we need to start our dessert. So it's in the morning and I'm preparing dinner for tonight. And one thing I will say is this particular menu, you can make a lot of it in advance. So you could do this a couple of days before you need it, and you can either reheat the whole dish, so there's that option, or you can finish it off on the night you need it. So this is a really good weeknight dinner, a weeknight dinner party, anything when you feel like something just a little different. So I've got my menu printed out here, which I don't always do. Sometimes I don't need to, but I felt like it today. So I've got my little menu printed out. We are going to be making, hang with me. All right, Asian inspired chicken. We're going to have a Asian drizzle, soy ginger drizzle that's going to go over the top of that. We're going to serve that on some stock cooked rice and some green beans that we're going to saute in some garlic. We're going to pick some beans from our garden, so we'll head out there. We're going to have, for our drink, we're going to have a nice citrusy grapefruit sparkling drink, non-alcoholic, but if you wanted to make it alcoholic, you could easily add some gin or some vodka to that. And for dessert, we're going to do a coconut panna cotta with some lime. And I know panna cotta is not Asian, it's Italian, but it goes nicely with an Asian dinner. And you know, it's what we're going to do. So let's get into starting off with the dessert. We need to make that first because it needs at least 4 hours to chill. Overnight would be better, but we're going to chill it for at least 4 hours. I've got, looking at my clock, more than 4 hours before it's time to eat. So our panna cotta will be beautiful. And then we'll get started on marinating our chicken and head out into the garden and grab what we need. So I'm going to make today's dessert in little jars. Now I picked these jars up from Kmart, and I use them for storing herbs and things like that quite often, but I grabbed a few extra sort of packets of them the other day, and they're going to serve me well in this dessert. Panna cotta is more regularly served where you tip it out of its mold. So it's served as like a little dome or something on a plate. Because I am running not behind, but because to alleviate any problems that may occur with setting, I'm going to serve mine in the jars. And that is an option you can do too, because if they're not 100% set and I try to tip them out, we're going to have an almighty mess. Because I'm going to serve them in the jar, one, I'm not going to add extra washing up. There you go, there's your dessert. But also, if they don't set, we don't have a problem. You can trust me, I know what I'm doing. We are going to make our panna cotta a vanilla coconut flavour. And coconut being the part that's going to tie it in with our Asian sort of dinner. And because we're going to put some lime with it, might do a drizzle of honey or something, it's going to give us those sort of Asian flavours while still being beautiful and creamy. So in a pot, so in my pot here, I want 1 full can, which is a 400 ml can, of coconut milk or cream, whatever you have. This is a coconut milk, although I find this particular brand, which is the Aldi Organic, it is creamier than some of the other brands of coconut milk. So It's quite a creamy coconut milk. All right, 1 can. We want about half a cup of regular cream. And I don't have like regular cream that you have living in your fridge, but I've got these little UHT ones. So, and yes, this is a dry measure, so I'll just do a little bit more because dry measures and wet measures are slightly different. Give that a mix. To that, I want 1/4 cup of sugar. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of vanilla essence. You could also add a whole vanilla bean, and quite often I would. That tastes really nice and you get the little seeds in there. But I really want the vanilla to come through alongside the coconut, because I think vanilla and coconut just go so well together. So that's it for the main part of the ingredients. What we want to do is heat this up nice and slowly. Give it a good stir. While that's heating up nice and slowly, we need to have our gelatine pre-prepared. Now you can use granulated gelatine if you like. I'm going to use gelatine leaves because I prefer gelatine leaves. They seem to give a smoother texture, but preparation on gelatine leaves is slightly different. If you are going to use granulated gelatine, you want a couple of teaspoons of gelatine and some cold water, and you want to mix that together, like 2 teaspoons of cold water and about 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of gelatine. Mix them together and then you can add them to your warm milk. Because I'm using leaf gelatine, the preparation is slightly different. So what I'm going to do is soak, I'm going to do 5 sheets. I seem to find 5 is a good set number. 5, okay. To soak leaf gelatine, or to use leaf gelatine, what you need to do is take it from its cracky solid state into a melted liquid. So how to do that is we soak it by just covering it with cold water in a bowl to begin with. It's only going to take a couple of seconds. So put some cold water on here. All right, now unlike the granulated gelatine, it doesn't really matter how much cold water you use because we're not going to be adding this cold water to our mixture at all. All we're doing is we want to soften the gelatine so that we can squeeze them out. They'll be soft and gooey, and then we can add some boiling water to them, just a couple of teaspoons, and it will become this gelatinous, almost liquid state, and that's the product that we add to our warm, creamy mixture. So let's get this on the stove. So the trick with panna cotta is nice and slow. Bring your cream or your milk mixture. You want to dissolve your sugar and you want to bring your liquids up to just a boil, but you want to do it nice and slowly. The slower you do it, the creamier it will remain, and it's just how it works, okay? So nice and slow. You don't have to stir it continuously. I'm giving it a stir pretty regularly because I want to make sure that my sugar has dissolved well before we get to that boiling pot, sort of that almost boiling point, that we can then add our gelatine to. All right, so to dissolve our gelatine, we're going to need just a little bit of boiling water. So I'm going to pop the kettle on, about 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. Okay, my creamy coconut milk and sugar with vanilla is starting to heat up nicely. It's looking good. I'm going to check on the gelatine. So as you can see, it kind of just looks like a bowl of water, but you can pick it up and it's this soft, squeezable mass of gelatine. Okay, so take your gelatine leaves, if you're doing it with gelatine leaves, squeeze them out. Now that's just water in there. There's my gelatine. I'm going to just tip my water into the sink. Okay, no water left in my bowl. I mean, there's a couple of drips. There are my 5 gelatine leaves, all squishy, back in the bowl. We're going to add about a tablespoon, maybe 2, because we do need this to not be too thick. So we want it to be liquidized a little bit before we can add it to our creamy coconut milk, which has just started to bubble, which is perfect timing because the kettle is almost done. So you can see we've got some little tiny bubbles happening there. That is where we want it to be. We aren't boiling over, we're not moving too quickly, it's looking good. Now I can feel that my sugar has dissolved, so that's good as well. We are ready to add our gelatine. So what I'm going to do is turn my heat off because I'm happy that that is warm enough. And my kettle just boiled, so we are good to go. Straight into your bowl, a tiny bit of water, so a couple of tablespoons worth. Just enough to submerge your gelatine. And I'm going to use this spoon here since we're going straight in there. Just give that a stir until that gelatine is smooth, okay? You don't want lumps in your gelatine ever. Never want lumpy gelatine. If you're concerned about lumps in this and you've made it, you can always pass it through a sieve before you pour it into your molds, and that will remove any lumps as well. And that will give you a smoother panna cotta also. Okay, I'm happy with that. It is well dissolved. We are a pourable consistency, although you can feel that it's thick. It's not water consistency. So straight into your pot with your cream and milk that has come up to the right temperature. We are going to just pour this in. Keep stirring as you add it. You want the gelatine well mixed through the entire mixture because we want the whole mixture to set. And that is it for the base of your panna cotta. That is done. It really does not get simpler. It's just like making jelly, really. Making sure I've mixed it well, not noticing any lumps or anything like that. So I'm going to need 6 of these little jars, but I think I actually have made enough for a couple more, but that is okay too. Just let it cool down just slightly so you don't burn yourself when you're handling it. You want to pour this into a jug. Glass jug is ideal. So we want to pour this into a jug, ideally a glass jug, not a plastic one, but my glass jug is in the dishwasher. So now is the time to strain it as you pour it into your jug to remove any lumps that have formed. Because we do want a really smooth panna cotta. We don't want something lumpy. And there was a couple of little solid pieces there, so I'm glad I strained it. I need 6 of these little jars, and I may have enough mixture for a few more, but that's okay too. If you do want to make panna cotta and you want it to be turned out and not served in its little jar, you want to make sure the opening is wider. Okay, so trying to turn this out wouldn't work because I have a ridge here in my jar and that would naturally break my panna cotta. So something like a silicone muffin pan would work. Something like that would be good. I think I've got the perfect amount for 6. I do. Look at that. Perfect amount for 6 little portions of panna cotta. Didn't even need the spare jar. Now, we need to let these cool down a little bit before we pop them in the fridge, but I'm going to put them on a tray, pop them in the fridge once they've just cooled down a bit so they're not so piping hot, and they are then going to do their thing, set in the fridge so that when it comes time to serve it, all I've got to do is decorate them, and we will get the decorations done before dinner, so everything will be done. It will be literally a case of taking them out. So just a small tray. Some wind outside today. All right. Let them sit, let them cool down to sort of room temperature before you pop them in the fridge. But that's dessert essentially done. My panna cotta is at room temperature. I'm going to carefully pop these in the fridge and we'll move on with our chicken. So our chicken has a marinade. When we serve it, it's actually going to have a little drizzle as well, so a separate, almost like a marinade. It's very similar. And we're also making a dressing to go on our Asian-inspired slaw. So we're going to do those 3 things now. I will put the marinade straight in this dish. I'm going to cook my chicken in the oven. You could throw it on your barbecue, on your flat top grill. You could cook it in the oven. You could cook it in a wok. It is up to you. This is just a basic sort of Chinese-inspired flavors that are going in this marinade. I'm going to throw mine in the oven for ease later on. So into my marinade, what I want is about 1/4 cup of sweet chili. Soy, same amount, 1/4 cup. Hoisin sauce, we want about 1/4 cup. I've only got a little bit left here, so I'm just going to use what I've got left, which will be about 1/4 cup. And I'll even just put a little bit of water in here, shake it up just to get all of my hoisin. I don't like to waste ingredients, and it's not going to affect the dish at all if there's a little bit of water. But if you're not using the end of a jar, like I am of this one, just about 1/4 cup of hoisin. I want a little bit of honey and 1 to 2 tablespoons. I'm going to do 2. I also want a teaspoon or thereabouts of Chinese 5 spice. Okay. I'm going to add just about a teaspoon of sesame seeds and 2 cloves of garlic. Because ingredients are so expensive, don't waste any, get it all out. So this chicken is going to be marinated in this marinade for the whole day until we go to cook it. It's only going to take 20 to 30 minutes in the oven, less if you're cooking it on a wok, and it's going to cook in the marinade, all right? So we're not going to have this be wasted. It's going to cook into our chicken. And what I will do is add about a tablespoon of oil to this because there's a lot of sugars in here. This is quite a sweet marinade. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil. You could use sesame oil if you had it. A little bit of salt and pepper, because I put salt and pepper in everything. If you need to add onion powder and garlic powder, by all means do that. I really don't add it to everything. I find a lot of people do add onion and garlic powder to a lot of things, but that's not something I do. But yeah, by all means, if that's something you want to do, you could add that as well. And you could also add some fresh chili to this as well if you wanted. I'm not going to add chili to mine other than that sweet chili, but I will have some chili powder, some sriracha flakes, I should say, on the table for anyone who wants to add a little bit of heat to their meal tonight. And I'm going to keep my garlic pretty chunky. Get that well mixed in. All right, that's ready for the chicken breast, which is just finishing off its defrosting. So what I want to do now is make the dressing that's going to go on our slaw. I'm not going to put that together until the last minute because I don't want my slaw to be soft at all. I want it to be quite crunchy. So the dressing for our slaw, I'm putting it in a jar, and I have written on the jar that this is dressing. Because we're going to have this drizzle as well, I don't want to be getting confused. This is a huge lime that I'm going to use. So I would probably say 1 giant lime or 2 smaller limes. And my tree is giving me tons of limes at the moment, so I'm not too worried that I forgot to zest this before I juiced it. But if you're buying limes, zest your lime first because we're going to use that zest on our panna cotta. To that, I want to add about a tablespoon, roughly, of rice wine vinegar. I'm just going to add a little bit more. Okay. Sesame oil would be perfect here. I don't have any sesame oil, so I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil. We want a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. So if you have sesame oil, definitely add a few drops of sesame oil to your dressing. I don't have sesame oil. I am going to add a teaspoon of honey, a nice generous teaspoon of honey. All right, I want about a teaspoon of sesame seeds. And you could also put the zest of your lime in your dressing. I also want to add some ginger, and I'm running out of ginger. I'm running out of my fresh ginger that I grew. If you've been following for a while, you will maybe have noticed that this summer, I didn't grow any fresh ginger or turmeric, and I am very much regretting that. I thought I had more than enough stored away in my freezer to get me through for a whole nother year, but I don't. So that's about a tablespoon and a half of ginger there, freshly grated. Okay, pop a tiny bit of salt, just a pinch, and give your dressing a good shake. That's our dressing ready to go on our slaw when we make it, which we haven't done yet, but we're just getting these wet things done. Now for our drizzle that's going to go on top of our chicken and rice after it's out of the oven, we are using very similar flavors again. We are going to go in with some soy sauce, roughly 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Whoop, that was a little bit more. It's all right, no one here is going to complain, but yeah, go with like 2 tablespoons of soy. You want 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar. You could use lime juice instead if you didn't have the rice wine vinegar. And the same for the dressing. If you didn't have rice wine vinegar, you can just leave that out. We want some ginger and some honey. So again, I'm going to go in with about a teaspoon of honey. And as you will have noticed, this is a very similar flavour profile as both the dressing and the marinade. And again, about a teaspoon of ginger. And because I grew this ginger myself, and it is definitely organic and spray-free, and I have washed it really well, I grate the skin as well. I have no problem doing that when I know where my ginger has come from. It's just a little bit of ginger. I'm going to add some sesame seeds. If I had sesame oil, I'd probably add a couple of drops of that as well. So give that a good stir. We're going to need to stir this again when we go to serve it. And this is just going to be a light drizzle that goes over the top of our dinner to enhance those flavours that are in the marinade. And like I said, you can make this dish entirely well before you're going to serve it. So it will keep well in the fridge. It's actually going to enhance the flavours if you do make it a little bit in advance, a day or two. All right, I'm happy with that. That drizzle is going to be good when it comes time to serve. So I'll wrap that in Glad Wrap and I'll write on the top that that's what it is. All right, so I've got 4 chicken breasts here and I am making dinner for 6 tonight. 4 is probably a little more than I need, considering we are having that coleslaw and the green beans and then a dessert as well. So, but that's okay with me, because what I'm going to do is any leftover chicken, leftover coleslaw, I'm going to add a little bit of lettuce to that and call it a salad. And there's lunch for the next however many days it needs to be for. So I'm just going to cut each of my chicken breasts, they're slightly frozen still, in half. When I go to serve my chicken, I will slice it up. I'm going to pull my tenderloins off and pop them in. Someone did ask in my one of my chicken videos, I think I may have been breaking down my chicken into different pieces. Someone asked what you could use tenderloins for. You can use tenderloins for anything that you use chicken breast for. I'll often just chuck it in with the chicken breast like this, dice it up. I've served chicken tenderloins as the only component as well, where we don't have other cuts of chicken, and they're just nice as a serve. We serve a couple of tenderloins per person. You can crumb them, make them into like a giant chicken nugget for kids and adults. You could beat your chicken down as well, like with a meat hammer. You could use a rolling pin to get it to be an even thickness. I'm not too worried. I'm going to quickly toss these over. I don't care that my pan is crowded, because this is going to be great anyway. And just like that, wash your hands. Okay, I'm going to get rid of all this. Wrap my chicken, pop it in the fridge, bring it out and pop it in the oven, give it about half an hour to cook. I'm going to wrap my drizzle. That is going to be ready to just put on at the end. My dressing is now ready. We will make the coleslaw, it's not really coleslaw, the Asian style slaw, and we will make our drink. When we come back in, I'm going to clean this up, wrap them, put them in the fridge, grab you. We're going out into the garden. It's cloudy again today, surprise, surprise. And it is pretty windy, so I don't know if the microphone's going to work real well, but we're going to run outside. We're going to grab a couple of things. I've got a little shopping list here of what we need to get from the garden, and then come back in and finish off all of our prep for our dinner. All right, so come with me. We're going to go out to the garden, grab the bits and pieces we need. I've got a basket, some snips, little shopping list here, and my jar of compost, which I'm going to put in the compost bin since we're out there. So let's go see if we can get what we need from the garden. All right, it's super glary out here. Be careful I don't walk on my pumpkins. The first thing I want to grab are beans and the green onion tops, which are right here in front of me. Okay. Now, I don't need too many of the green onion tops, which is good. I can just take a few. You know what the cool thing is? These shallots, or green onions, spring onions, these were grown from a bunch I bought at the supermarket and, you know, chopped the top off, left the little root, planted it, and now we're getting our own little shallots, or green onions, as they are. Just a little handful in there. Okay, I want to get a little bit of coriander, and there's coriander just here, so I'm going to grab that now as well. I know I said beans first, right? So a small bunch of coriander. All right, I want to get a little bit of mint, and the beans, they're just behind you, right there. Okay, I do have some beans inside already. I'm just going to grab whatever's out here because they keep in the fridge well, and it's really good for your bean plant to be regularly harvested. So if you plant beans and you kind of don't harvest them often enough, you won't get as many beans on that plant as if you were harvesting really regularly on your plant. So I come out here every day or two and I'll just grab the beans even if we aren't wanting them that particular day, just so that my plant has to keep giving me beans, because it's one of the only things this year that's doing really well. We're losing a lot of stuff to pests, despite it being winter. Different pests now. Pests all the same. Look at that one. It's huge. It's a real big one there. All right, I think I got most of the beans. I've got a decent amount anyway. Add that to what I've already got inside and we'll be perfect. My shopping list. I want to get some mint, which is right here at my feet. And I need one grapefruit off the orchard. And then I'm just going to get some flowers. So I'll grab my mint. I want mint for my slaw, but I also want it for my drinks. So I've got to get enough mint. And I have another little pot of mint over there, so we might grab some of that as well. All right, my corn, check this out. It's ready to harvest. Probably should have done something that had corn in it. Yeah, so I brought you out here not long ago and the corn was nearly ready. Well, now it is ready. Looking good, looking good. All right. There's some mint there. We'll grab that. Things are growing beautifully. We're going to get our one grapefruit that we need. And this tree is loaded. I need to harvest so many grapefruit. I needed one, I got 3. My grapefruit's loaded. My lime is loaded with those big limes. Lemons are coming in. I really need to get out here and do a really big harvest of the citrus because we're losing so much of it to the ground and I don't want it there. I want to use it. All right, 3. And I've got this compost. I'm just going to chuck in my compost bin here. All right, we've got all these beautiful zinnias that put themselves there. So we're going to grab a few of them. A few. I might wander around and grab what else I could find that would work to fill a little vase on the table. All right, so there we go. I found a couple of cosmos, 1 dahlia in there. Yeah, there it is, the dahlia. Some cosmos, some zinnias. Of course, none of these being winter flowers, but you know, it is what it is. So let's get inside where it's a bit cooler. Take all our flowers, take our little grocery haul with us so we can finish getting dinner sorted for tonight. Right. Let's go. These are just some recycled bottles that I've kept. This is some of that purpley red leaf plant. I don't even know what it's called, but it's out in the veggie garden. I grabbed some of that. And I'm just going to put some of my flowers. I did strip most of the leaves off as well, just because they were all mildewy. And we're just going to make the table look pretty. I've put some of this red leaf on the table. So there's the dinner table actually set, and obviously I need to put the food on the plates. And we are using little tiny dessert spoons, teaspoons, because our panna cottas are in little tiny jars. So, but there we go, table's ready. All right, my table's set. I've got what's left of my flowers can just live, I don't know, there, so it looks pretty. My beans, I'm gonna get them with the rest of my beans. I need to make stock cooked rice. I need to make our slaw and I need to make our drink. So we're gonna make our drink first. And this is going to be a grapefruit and lime sparkling drink. And what I'm going to do is add soda water to this before we serve it. So what I'll make now is I'm going to get my grapefruit in here, some sugar in here so that it's dissolved before we need to drink it. And yeah, get my decorations for the drink ready as well. The other thing I might do is just, I did wash my grapefruit, just peel off some of the zest because it's cool. Not the bits that had the dirty part on it, but just a little bit of zest. And we're going to pop that in our jug that we're making our drink in. I only really wanted one, but I'm thinking I'm gonna do 2 or 3 because we picked 3 grapefruit out there. These are ruby grapefruits. They're a little bit sweeter than the yellow one. I think I have half a grapefruit in my fridge, so I might use that up as well. But 2 to 3, 1 to 3, you do whatever you want to do. If you want to make this, I'm just going to show you how I'm doing it. I'm going to sweeten mine with sugar, but you could use honey if you wanted to as well. To our grapefruit, I want to add some lime, and this is where you could have saved lime skin from one of the limes we've already used as well, if you wanted to. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to be adding some soda water to this. I'm also going to put ice in here before we serve it. And I'm going to add, the sugar part is really going to be based on your taste, okay? You could add up like even half a cup of sugar if you really like things sweet. We prefer our grapefruit drinks and our lime drinks and things like that to be on the sourer side. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons, and I feel like that's going to be more than enough sweetness of sugar to my jug. Give it a good stir. This is now ready for ice and for soda water, and to be at the time of serving, we will put some more fruit in there as well, like some sliced fruit, some sliced lime, like this. All right, can you see that? There we go. Needs ice, needs soda water. It's got some fruit in it. Oh, mint. I wanted to put a bit of mint in there. So we're just going to pop straight up, sprigs and all, straight in there. Okay, this is going to be so delicious. So our drink is essentially done other than finishing it off. And you can keep that in the fridge until it's time to serve it as well. We're going to get our slaw made, and then once that's done, everything else is ready to go for this evening. So as you can see, I already have this whole bag of beans that I've been collecting over the past 3 days. So that's pretty decent. We've got these new ones here. So we've got plenty of beans for our garlic beans, and all we need to do for them is grate a bit of garlic and quickly stir fry those in some olive oil, and they will be done. We need to cook our chicken. Again, that's just straight into the oven and it's done. And we need to make our stock rice. And stock rice is just the same as normal white rice, except instead of cooking it with water, we cook it with chicken stock or vegetable stock. And I'm going to cook that rice in my Instant Pot to make my life even simpler this evening. So for our slaw, I've got 1/4 of a cabbage here. Just going to cut the heart out of it, or the stalk. Okay, and we are just going to shred it with our knife. If you had Chinese cabbage, that would be better, like the Wombok variety. But again, I'm using what I've got to make dinner. That dressing is going to give it the flavour we want anyway. So I always squeeze my cabbage to break it up as well when I put it into the bowl. This is the bowl I'm going to be serving it in as well. I'm not making more dishes. I have been asked in the comments section a couple of videos back, when is my cookbook coming out? And this is a question I've received in private messages on Instagram and also on a couple of videos that I've put out. And I don't know if people are being serious or not. Do you still buy cookbooks? I still buy cookbooks. Putting out my own cookbook has been something I have been wanting to do since I was quite young. And it is something I have been thinking about again, especially since my channel is growing. So keep my channel growing. Don't forget to comment, to like it, share it around. Let's tell YouTube that you want this channel to keep going, because it very much, I enjoy making the videos. I would love to make a cookbook. Let me know in the comments below, is that something you would be interested in seeing me put out at some point? Yeah, so that's to answer that question. I haven't made a cookbook yet, but it is something I've been thinking about for quite a while. Now, to make our carrots, we could grate them, we can chop them into little matchsticks, we can peel them like the peelings here. I think I'm just going to grate mine. And yeah, if you're not following me on Instagram, I will make sure there's a link available or a tag that you can search me up on Instagram. I mainly just show little snippets here and there, a couple of behind the scenes things sometimes, what's going on. Maybe, you know, the other day I put out my corn. I picked my first couple of heads of corn and they made it to Instagram. So if you're wanting a little bit more than what I'm putting out, head over there, follow along. I do let you know that I put new videos up, and videos generally come up on Friday for me. So 2 carrots, a quarter of a cabbage. That was a decent cabbage. Okay, we want to use all of our little spring onion tops or shallot tops. Those little tiny handful of chives I grabbed, I'm going to chop them up. This is where our coriander, most of it, is coming in. I will use a little bit at the end, and mint. So all of these herbs are getting chopped. Straight into your bowl and give it a good mix. To get our chicken stock rice cooked, and what I've got is my Instant Pot. My Instant Pot has a button called rice, so it really just could not get any simpler. I'm using basmati rice today because that's what I've got. A trick I was asked in a recent video, how do you open and close these buckets? So I put a lot of pressure here and I pull up, and it isn't easy, it is quite difficult. And when I go to seal the bucket, I actually put my knee into the center, which I know isn't ideal for a lot of people. So what I would suggest is probably investing in that. It's called a gamma lid, I believe. It's like a screw-in center part. So it has a rim similar to this that fixes it to your bucket, but then to open it, you're opening a center part here. So for anyone who is wanting to know the best way to get these lids on and off on these sorts of buckets, I put my knee into the center to get it to really snap lock into place. But if that's not an option for you, I would be investing in a gamma lid. I will see if I can find one on Amazon, and I'll pop it in my description if I can. So in my Instant Pot, I am going to do 2 full cups of rice. So these, in order for these to be insect proof too, you have to hear the lock. Okay, just pushing down isn't enough. See, I don't know if you heard that, but that was all the edges clicking as I put my knee into the center of the lid. I'm going to give this a quick rinse before I add my stock to it. My rice is washed. All right, I'm going to add some chicken stock, and I will end up using both of these which will equal about 2.5 cups. That's the ratio I use. So I'll use 2 cups of rice and 2.5 cups of stock or water, whichever one you prefer. Making sure all of your rice is actually under liquid, because if it's on the sides of the pot, it probably won't cook. All right, want that in there. Now, because I made this chicken stock, I know that it does not have salt or pepper in it, so I am going to add some salt and pepper to mine. If you're using a commercial stock, it will definitely, most likely, be heavily salted. So don't add salt and pepper unless you know that your rice or your stock doesn't have any in it. Just a good pinch of each. I have put my chicken in the oven. It is starting to smell incredible. It's been in there for about 10 minutes. That's going to give this rice about 12 minutes. And then it'll be about 22 minutes all up for the chicken, and we should be just about good to go. My Instant Pot has self-sealing, so it does it itself. But if you are cooking in an Instant Pot and yours doesn't self-seal, you need to make sure your little vent thing here is set to sealing, all right? Not venting. So our slaw is finished over here. All right, it's all mixed. We've got our dressing here. I'm going to sprinkle on top some little fried shallots. So I've got them, they're just purchased ones. We need to get our beans sorted with some garlic. So I just want to dice up probably 2 cloves of garlic for this amount of beans. So I've also just put a couple of tablespoons of desiccated coconut into the microwave, because I want some desiccated coconut for the top of our panna cottas. I have checked them. They are set beautifully, looking very, very good. So we're going to put on top of our panna cotta a little bit of lime zest, some toasted coconut, and I did find I had a little bit of canned pineapple that I canned about, what was it, a few weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago. I canned some pineapple. I didn't make a video on it. If you want to see a video on canning fruits, let me know. I do have some pears I need to can, and I have some frozen fruit that I need to get out of my freezer and into some jars to free up some freezer space. So let me know if a canning fruit video is something also that appeals to you by leaving a comment down below, because if enough people show an interest in that, I'll film it. Otherwise, I'll just do it anyway. So I have some canned pineapple here, and just a nice small jar. So I'm going to use some of that to pop on top or next to. I'm not sure how I'm going to plate up my little panna cottas, considering they're in their jars. But anyway, we have 2 cloves of garlic here. I have a small cast iron pan. It is not hot yet. I am putting my garlic in cold. To that, we want just a little bit of butter and a little bit of olive oil. Now, you can use either or as well if you prefer. When I say a little bit, like a teaspoon of butter. I won't be finishing cooking these beans until we're ready to plate up. So the rice will need to be finished. The chicken will need to be out of the oven before I even turn my beans on. But I want to get my pan ready to go. So I've got my olive oil. We're looking at about a teaspoon and a half of olive oil, and about a teaspoon of butter. Good couple of cloves of garlic. It will need some salt and pepper. A little bit of sriracha sprinkle would be perfect. But other than that, I am going to saute these whole, because I like my beans to be whole and not cut when they're freshly grown. So I'm going to do 2 good handfuls of beans there, ready to go in my frying pan. So that's just going to sit on my stove until we're ready. Other than that, everything's pretty well done. let's have a little taste to make sure we're happy with that. That's good. There is enough sourness that you can tell it's really like lime and grapefruit, but it's not too sour that you're like, it needs sugar. It doesn't need sugar. Perfect. All right, that's ready to go to the table. Just pulled my chicken out of the oven. It's just behind me there. It's lovely and dark and beautiful. Our rice has 4 minutes, so as soon as that goes off, I'll start my beans. I'm going to show you how I'm going to plate up my panna cotta. Now, ideally, you know, we'd get our panna cotta out of our jar or mold and it would sit on our plate. But because we're doing ours in our jar, I'm still going to decorate the plate because you can scoop out of your panna cotta onto the plate and it'll just be beautiful. So I've got my little bit of canned pineapple here, and I'm just going to give each one of these just a little bit of pineapple, remembering it's a small dessert as it is. Okay, we want some lime zest. That plate over there. Okay, we want some lime zest, one on the top of the panna cotta, but we also want it on the plate. Okay, just a little bit. I'm going to put a drizzle of honey. Now that might seem a little strange, but it will be really delicious. And just a little bit on top of our panna cotta, and then just drizzle on the plate and over the pineapple. So it's like thin strands of almost toffee, but it's not toffee, it's honey. Just got a little bit of toasted coconut, and I just want to put a little bit on the side of my panna cotta. And then to finish it off, I've got some dehydrated pineapple, and I dehydrated this at about 50 degrees. It took about 12 hours. And the beautiful thing about dehydrated pineapple is it looks like a little flower. So there we go. That's how I'm going to plate up dessert. Beeping means our rice is done, so we're going to hit cancel. I'm going to hit the quick release button. I want the steam out of this, and I'm turning my stove on. I'm going to get that oil, garlic, butter hot so I can quickly saute these green beans. It's going to be a real quick process. We only want them to just be cooked, all right? I want some real good crunch still in there. So let's release this. So I'm going to dress my slaw on the plate. Okay, I'm happy that that is sizzling perfectly. I'm ready to throw my beans straight in. And in they go. As soon as the colour of the beans brightens, that's when I know they're ready. That's when I want them off the heat. I don't want them going like that grey green that they could if I leave them to cook for too long go. We just want the colour to brighten, which means the green bean will be still super crunchy, but it will be cooked, and it'll have this beautiful garlic butter flavour to it. All right, beans are done. My garlic has gotten beautiful and crispy and brown, and that's exactly how I want that to look. All right, get a piece of chicken. And there's a little piece there. Oh, so good. It's still got that kick from the sweet chili, but it's not like it's hot. Kids will still eat it. Now, if you want to be fancy and serve your rice in a dome like the restaurants do, get a little cup, just spray it with a little bit of oil. And then get some rice. The rice is lovely and fluffy. Pop it in your cup, press it down, because we're trying to make a mold here. All right, like that. Now I've already put my slaw on the plate, and you want to quickly tip it over. There you go, beautiful little mound. Isn't it precious? Let's get some greens on this plate. Let's get our chicken. Oop, lost it. Now to finish it off, we need our drizzle, remember? And we also want to give it a sprinkle with some fried shallots. And these are just from like the Asian section of the supermarket. A little bit of our drizzle over everything, because everything deserves to taste beautiful. Okay, a little, you could also add nuts too. A little bit of fried shallot. And that is it, done. So there's dinner and dessert, which I'll grab, and we'll set the table and enjoy our meal. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope you enjoyed this little video of putting together an easy, quick really, weeknight. Something better than the regular old chicken dinner, okay? This is gonna be a really lovely little dinner party. We've got our beautiful grapefruit citrus drink. We've got our incredibly delicious, silky coconut panna cotta with a little bit of pineapple and lime just to kick it off. And then we've got our really delicious Asian inspired dinner. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for spending time with me. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, fantastic week, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. All right, I need to plate up the rest of these meals. The people are hungry, but, and I also need to grab cups. Who forgot the glasses? How are we gonna drink this beautiful drink without the glasses? So I'm gonna grab some glasses, plate up the rest of this dinner, and we're gonna enjoy it as a family.